Hi, this is Darcy Burns. I'm Executive Director of Hill for Literacy, and I welcome you to the MTSS Tiered Academic Instruction Literacy Academy webinar. The purpose of the webinar is to provide an overview of the Massachusetts Tiered Systems of Support, as well as an introduction to the Literacy Academy and the readiness requirements. MTSS focuses on system structures and supports across the district, school, and classroom to meet the academic and non-academic needs of all students, including students with disabilities, English language learners, and students who have already demonstrated mastery of the concepts and skills being taught. The purpose of today's webinar is to provide an overview of the training, the readiness, implementation, and outcomes of the Massachusetts Tiered System of Support, Tiered Academic Instruction Literacy Academy. The MTSS Academies are a multi-year project that involves teams of teachers attending academies and coaches meetings. So in year one, which would be fall 2017 to spring 2018, there will be 6 days of face-to-face team trainings. There will be 4 days of coaches trainings and 2 on-site days to be provided in the district, as well as there might be a networking meeting that is organized by the Department of Ed. In year 2, that will be fall 2018 to spring of 2019. There will be 3 days of face-to-face team trainings, 5 days of coaches trainings, and 2 days of on-site technical assistance per district, as well as possibly a networking meeting. In year 3, the academies will have concluded. Year 3 would be fall of 2019 to spring of 2020. There will be no face-to-face academy trainings, but there will be 5 days of coaches trainings and 2 days of on-site technical assistance per district, as well as potentially a networking meeting. The academies are organized around providing content to both elementary teams and a separate training for the middle school, high school teams. The literacy academies are scheduled to occur in the eastern part of the state as well as the western part of the state. The time of those academies is 9 to 2, and the dates specified on this chart are the dates that are potentially, these are a draft of the dates, but there's 2 days in October. We do 2 back-to-back academies to kick off the Literacy Academy series. And then there will be 1 day in November in both the East and the West, 1 day in December in both the East and the West, and 1 day in January in both the East and the West. And then we will switch over to coaches meetings. The coaches meetings will occur in February, 1 in the East and the West, 1 in March in the East and the West, 1 in April in the East and the West, and 1 in May in the East and West. And then we'll conclude the school year with an academy in the East and the West in June. Again, this is a draft schedule, as we are currently securing the locations for the trainings, as well as the training academies are also affected by the number of schools that are recruited in both the east and the western part of the state. The current location that we're considering is in the east would be in Marlborough, Mass, and the west would be in Springfield. As for the topics, we have topics that have been actually now implemented with 2 cohorts of schools prior to this year. And there are different topics spread out across the various academies. So for for the elementary group, We start out in October with an overview of MTSS and share needs assessments, tools, and a process for developing a school or district-wide literacy plan and activity timeline. That happens in the first day in October, and then the second day is we kick off the overview of assessment and building an assessment framework. And then in November, we continue with the assessment topic regarding a systematic process for using data to make decisions instructionally and for resource allocation and other purposes. And then in December, we move into linking instruction to reading development, an overview of tiered instruction, and we share tools for conducting inventory of your current use of programs, resources, and materials for teaching literacy, and a process for reviewing your current resources as well as any new resources. In January, we move into, again, along the same lines of program implementation, but around the tools for implementing effective Tier 1 instruction, as well as ensuring and also work around ensuring the fact that you have a master schedule that supports academic blocks and opportunities for teachers to collaborate. And then in June, we move into the overview of principles of effective instruction, the features of that instruction, and the enhancement with the use of explicit teaching routines that can be applied to Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. For the middle school, high school group, we start out with an MTSS overview and overview of adolescent literacy, reviewing current research on RTI and MTSS in secondary schools, as well as what the critical components and aspects are of Tier 1 and Tier 2 within a secondary school. In November, we move into instructional strategies that can be applied to literacy instruction and various effective practices that should be applied to Tier 1 reading instruction. In December, we continue with literacy instructional practices that around vocabulary development and professional development around building a depth of knowledge in teachers and how to improve and enhance the reading skills of the students in the classroom. In January, an overview of tiered instruction, determining the current use of evidence-based primary, secondary, and tertiary interventions, as well as building a tiered program framework and master schedules that support tiered instruction. And then in June, back to instructional practices that should be instituted in response to reading, so summarization, close reading, as well as accountable talk and writing. So those are the topics of the academies. And then the coaches meetings is an opportunity to go deeper into the various topics that are covered in the academies, as well as tailor the content to the schools and really provide adequate support so the coaches and lead teachers can roll this information out, implement this in the schools. So each school, participating school, assembles a team that will attend the academies. For the elementary levels, it would be one district administrator, one school level administrator with decision-making authority, at least 2 coaches, lead teachers, or interventionists identified as literacy leads, 1 special education teacher, 1 ELL teacher, and at least 1 general education educator. For the middle school, high school, the teams would be 1 district administrator, administrator, one school level administrator with district level decision making. You could also, optional is to have a department or cluster leader. At least one coach identified as a literacy lead, and at least one lead teacher identified as a literacy lead, one special education educator, one ELL educator, and one content area educator, potentially from science, math, or humanities. A part of the application process is first, obviously, attending or participating in this webinar to learn information about the MTSS Literacy Academies and Coaches meetings. The second step is to conduct or complete a readiness survey. This survey, along with this webinar, is made available online, along with the application to apply to participate in the MTSS Literacy Academy and the Coaches meetings. The readiness survey, the intent is to have schools that are interested in participating take some time to reflect on your current practices and to determine your readiness to participate in this type of literacy academy and coaches meeting. It also enables us to gather information from the participating schools so that when opportunities arise, we can tailor content, particularly in the coaches meetings and the on-site visits based on the needs of the schools and districts. So to move into an overview of the MTSS model, which is the basis and the content that we deliver in the academies and the coaches meetings are fit into these various critical components. All of them will be covered in some capacity throughout the academies and coaches meetings. The critical components, if you look in the inner circle, is around building a tiered systems of instruction. So Tier 1, core universal instruction. Tier 2, supplemental, which is supplemental instruction to a small percentage of students in addition to core reading instruction. And Tier 3, intensive interventions that would be implemented with a very small percentage of students, that, again, in addition to and aligned with core reading instruction. So those components that are critical in building the tiered instructional model are the use of high-quality core curriculum and instruction, universal screening and progress monitoring tools, so you can move students in and out of tiers, as well as determine whether the instruction in each tier is effective. Research-based intervention and assessment practices, so having assessments that go deeper to identify additional information to plan targeted instruction, and involving and having a collaborative approach through problem solving. If you look at the outer circle, these are critical systems and structures that support that tiered instructional model, starting with leadership. So in order for a tiered instructional model to be sustained and be effective, there needs to be strong leadership throughout the school that's going to support the model. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment, so holding people accountable for the implementation of effective instruction in all tiers. Having professional development and human capital to be able to support the implementation of the tiered instructional model. Having a school culture that is supportive of students, that has a belief system that all students can learn to read, and that engages families in the support of these instructional practices at home. And then financial and asset management, ensuring the fact that financial supports and resources have been allocated to support this tiered instructional model. The goal and that we're working towards is the development of a school-wide system. And so this is a way of framing the the effectiveness of our tiered instructional model. We are working towards our universal interventions that are our instruction that's being implemented for all students is a preventative and proactive model that is working for 80 to 90% of the students. Or a tier 1 instruction should be working for 80 to 90%. So therefore, that 5 to 10% students falling in that category would only be 5 to 10% and will require some additional targeted interventions that are highly aligned to tier 1 and that also provide intensive enough instruction that it is increasing the students' reading skills and attainment of benchmark status. And then finally, that only 1 to 5% of students would be in the intensive category that will require high intensity, longer duration of intensive interventions. This is the academic system model that is the basis for MTSS and the goal that we are trying to achieve in the schools that are dedicated and committed to implementing a multi-tiered system of support model for academics in the area of literacy. So the elements of effective literacy model, as I stated in reviewing the MTSS model, is that there is strong instructional leadership and that it is a distributed leadership model. That is the reason why we have a team of people coming to the academies, is to ensure the fact that we have a distributed leadership approach to the implementation of MTSS throughout the school. Also, another component is the use of valid and reliable assessment system to screen, monitor, and make diagnostic and outcome decisions for students. A continuum of research-proven materials and programs to be utilized within a tiered instructional model, ensuring the fact that instructional time is adequate and prioritized to support staggered academic blocks of instruction, to maximize the use of people resources to deliver differentiated instruction and grouping. And finally, that there is an integrated system of research-based professional development and resource allocation to support the implementation of those research-based programs, resources, and materials, as well as assessments. The MTSS Literacy Academies support the creation of the sustainable MTSS literacy model that includes distributed leadership, administrative support, and strong action plan. Moving into a guided by comprehensive research-based assessment to identify need, and informing the use of data-informed research-based literacy programs to meet the needs of all students. Participating schools will have, so the readiness, what we're hoping, will have leadership teams to guide and oversee the implementation of the activities associated with the initiative. The support of the district and building leaders to ensure the fact that that the content is brought back to the schools. That research-supported assessment tools to identify and monitor the literacy needs of all students. That assessment data is used to inform decisions about reading instruction and intervention on a regular basis, and that the leadership team members commit to attending all of these sessions and implementing the tasks associated with the leadership training, with the literacy academies. And then a literacy facilitator and attend the coaches meetings. Participating schools will commit to developing a literacy action plan, which we worked on in school year 17-18, and then allocating time to perform those necessary tasks associated with the literacy action plan. And then allocating resources to that plan, and using common and consistent aligned research-based literacy programs and training to support the implementation of the plan. The support system that we're hoping to instill in the schools is to start with literacy leadership teams attending the academies, learning the information, and then with the support of the school and district leaders, create a district, a database literacy action plan or literacy plan for the school, and then implement that plan. And while implementation, evaluating and monitoring the implementation, and then bringing that information back to the leadership team. So this is a cycle and a multi-year approach to building an MTSS model. So starting with a clearly defined literacy plan, implementing that plan, and then using the implementation data to inform the next year's plan. So phase one is prior to the academy. So after attending the webinar, the idea is that the school leadership teams will complete a readiness survey and commit to the MTSS literacy model, establish a team, identify your literacy leaders, and begin to think about, when and how you can allocate resources towards the implementation of your literacy plan. Phase two is the teams will participate in the leadership, the literacy academies. The coaches will attend the coaches meetings, and then the literacy with the expectation that there's a school-based literacy leadership team that in the school that will be the vehicle to implement the various components of the MTSS model. And then moving into phase three would be to continue to develop and refine the plan, full implementation of the action plan, monitoring the implementation of fidelity of the student of the plan and student progress, and adjusting the literacy plan according to formative data. Expected outcomes, that leadership teams and structures to develop and implement a model of continuous literacy improvement. There will be a process for developing and refining a comprehensive research-based assessment system, a process for developing and refining a continuum of aligned complementary literacy programs and materials, and structures and a plan for providing data-informed, embedded, ongoing professional development that will support the model. The next steps, we will hold a follow-up webinar for school administrators on June 16th at 8:30 and June 20th at 3:30 for schools that are interested in participating and would like to have the opportunity to ask questions and gain more information about the literacy academies and coaches meetings. And also, priority for acceptance will be given to districts in elementary and secondary school level teams, so which will indicate that there is a district level of support for implementing MTSS across the district. Here are some application deadlines. August 18th, you'll submit the round 1 application, which includes the contact information and the readiness survey. And then on September 13, you'll submit a round 2 application, which includes the team members. This will give you ample opportunity to assemble your team, and so therefore when you submit the team members, we will have an accurate list that we can then add to our email and communication moving forward for the literacy academies and coaches meetings. All readiness requirements must be met prior to the first literacy academy in October. So this concludes our webinar on MTSS literacy. Academy. Again, I thank you for participating. To seek additional information, you can reach Rebecca Shore at DESE or myself, Darcy Burns at Hill for Literacy. There's my number as well if you prefer to call, and also Shira Cohen-Goldberg at Hill for Literacy is also available to answer any questions regarding the MTSS Literacy Academy and Coaches meetings. Again, thank you very much for participating, and we hope that you joined this effort.